Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is your boy Sean, aka Puff Comics 83, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Movies, where we discuss films on a Friday afternoon. I'm joined by my co-host, who is very excited to talk about this film since he brought up one of the actors a couple weeks ago. But Varangian Vigilante, what is going on? How are you doing?
Ho! Ho! Ho!
Yeah.
In the best of moods, I just watched the movie again, and this is a movie I loved since the first day that I saw it in cinemas. This is like a movie that, back in the day, like when it came to cinema, I didn't know that it was based on the comics by Frank Miller. This was a time when I was out of comics, just before I started to go to university and get back into comics. So it was very interesting to find out what it's based on, but when it came out, I was like, wow, this is finally like a manly movie that really promotes like virtues, honor, and everything that, that a man should stand for. Like 300 is awesome. I love this movie. And also, which is also fun because later on I studied history. This is a movie when you throw it into a group of historians, you get a vastly different range of opinions about it. Like from, it's like basically nothing historic about it to, well, actually the movie is more like historically accurate than one would assume. But of course this doesn't matter at the end because it's not based on history, it's based on a comic book, which stylized history a lot.
And they do They do a really good job with the stylization.
Absolutely.
Of the film.
I love the way this movie looks, and it's just like, for me, it's an all-time classic. We talked already a little bit about when we had our stream about our 10 favorite comic book movies, and of course 300 made my top 10.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, 300 is one of those films that, whenever you watch it, it's like you fall into the trance with how it looks. The stylization, the computer generated graphics, but just the aesthetic of the cinematography and the lands and the actors, how they look. That's the first thing that grabbed you. That's what made me want to see the movie back when it came out, because it was completely different from anything I've ever seen with how it visually looks.
Yes, this changed a lot. This was also one of these trend-setting movies that was copied a lot afterwards by series and movies that were not based on comic books. Basically just ignoring that this style was there to transform the comic panels on screen. Yeah, also the quotes are just so fantastic.
He is the very definition of a person that you want to be right by his side. As your king and as your ruler, that's the man you want to die for.
Yeah. And I totally understand like the choices were made. Like Frank Miller said that of course he knew about the historical inaccuracies, but he said there were stylistic choices. Like he wanted to. You can see the bodies because he wanted to draw them, very fluent, and also the other choices. For example, like usually, Sparta was ruled by two kings. So you have one king at home and one king that goes out to battle. So in war times, that the state is not rudderless, which of course is not a part of the comic or the movie. But I totally get it, because having like the second king would have complicated things and would have made Leonidas less unique, because the choices of the other king would have been equally as valid.
Yeah, it's hard to have two kings.
Yeah,
and then because then you're putting, as a audience member, you're put in the position like, which king shall I be behind more? Who has the better ideals and who has the better leadership?
Exactly,
so you're going to split the audience in that.
Yeah, so it's a completely understandable decision. That's what I always say. When I was writing a lot of papers about histories in movies, And something that I always included was, of course, we are looking, like in the history department, we were looking at these movies through the lens of history. But these movies are not historic sources in the sense they don't tell us what happened back in the day. They're more of a historic source about our viewpoint nowadays on that time period. And most of all, these things were created to entertain and to make money. Exactly. So I always think it's a little bit, with some things, if something completely changes history and says like something is historic, like Netflix did with Cleopatra, where it's like you dug that grave yourself and now you're trying to get out of it and you're just digging it deeper. So nah. It's always, it's for me personally, I always say you can do everything with history, but you should always have like the label outside, hey, this is historic fiction. Like, we are not trying to educate you here, we're trying to entertain you.
It's like all those movies that says based on the true story or based on accurate events, but then you find a lot of inaccuracies when you research the event.
I think there's one movie out there that is based on real events. You're watching it and you don't think it's based on real events, but actually everything in this movie is completely true. It's Pain and Gain. The movie is so awesome and it's so crazy and it's all this shit really happened.
That movie was something else, man. I was like, these guys really did all this shit.
Yeah, we have to talk about that movie in the future.
We can do it next week. If next week's available, let's do it next week.
Yeah, it's like this movie it's so crazy.
And I was surprised that was a Michael Bay film.
I was also surprised. It's like, hey, ever since basically The Rock has done a movie again, it was good.
But back to the topic at hand, 300, man. This film, like, for me, it really showed the true battle spirit of one nation or one area of Sparta, Greeks. And one thing that I took away, besides the whole fighting to refuse to be slaves and being warriors, is the whole side on the Persians and King Xerxes. Like, his influence on people when it comes to the woman, the power, the godlike tier stuff, is very interesting in terms of how they portray godlike kings.
Yeah.
And when he first appeared, the unique look of him with all the rings and stuff like that, that was weird at first, but then you really look at the whole system of how historically accurate it is and how some of them actually looked at like that. It actually made me want to look up the character and see the history of Persia in that regards.
A lot is stylized there, of course.
Yeah, of course they style. The dude was like 10 foot tall. but again, it leads to his godlike stature. Like, yeah, he's God, so they gotta make him look bigger than he normally is. What do you think of it?
I really like the portrayal because first of all, it's a movie. It really stylizes things, and to show like a god emperor next to a king, so you make the god emperor like way huge, way larger, huger. It's a really good aesthetical choice. And the other thing is where the historian in me comes through. When you read the Greek sources, I love Greek historians. Like, I love Herodot and everybody. But the thing you have of the Greek historians, they were like a little bit boasting and telling things like, it's like how many people were in battle? 100. Let's make it 10,000. Like something like that. or such things. So it's basically also back in the day to make it more glorious. So history writers were actually historic fiction writers. Yeah, and of course that is like that is just a very shallow description of that, but I totally think that compared to the ancient Greek history writing, to have like such a fantastic approach actually is quite historical, not for how history probably actually happened, but more for how the Greeks stylized it and made it a little bit sound cool.
That's the thing, like the movie really stylized everything, but it's so damn good. It's so enjoyable. And you really become invested into the characters. And you also like dislike the politics behind it all.
Yeah.
With the main what's up, Steven Spot? With one of the characters, the Ron, played by Dominic West.
Yeah. Traitor. I absolutely. Another movie that I really like that a lot of people hate is Meet the Spartans, like the parody of it, where the character is literally called traitorous.
Yeah.
And I think played by Bada, like who portrayed him really well.
Hey man, does Steven Spot call us ladies, man?
Yeah. Like, can you even define what a woman is? Like, and we live in a time nobody knows what a woman is, so.
We do know one woman in the film, and that is Queen Gorgo, the wife of Leonidas.
Yeah.
And she was fantastically portrayed by Lena Headey.
Yeah.
And she got her comments on Theron later in the film, but you know, she was a great character herself, you know, for what we got.
Yeah, this won't be over quick, and you will not enjoy it.
Yeah. So you know, she was fantastic in the film, and I love what she did later, and you know, taking a stand, you know, to tell the Spartans that you know we need to defend and help our soldiers out. But you know, Theron being the politician that he is, and it's funny seeing Dominic West in a role where he's playing a politician. Yeah. And when you watch The Wire, he hates those two type of politicians in the bureaucracy.
Because it's like, you know, when I started watching The Wire like 2 weeks ago, the first thing I started, hey, this is Dominic West. You betrayed Leonidas.
He's a big traitor. So you watch him in The Wire, and he hates all the politics in that. So yeah, he was a scumbag in this film, and a glorious one at that.
Yeah.
You know? Like if there's one thing Dominic West does best is either play a scumbag person or always banging the chicks in every show that I've seen him in. And he does that all the time.
He does it so well because I watched the movie and that they spice him like with everything I have. Hey Al, thanks for joining. But
got
yeah, but it's yeah.
Thanks,
oh yeah,
Al.
nice. Okay, you got from Al. But yeah, this movie is so well cast. Like even in the small parts, you know, one of my favorite actors actually like really has a small role, and he gets the shaft right in the beginning. Peter Mansa, who portrays the Persian diplomat who comes with the head with the skull.
The guy, the earth and water.
Yeah, earth and water. Just earth and water. There's plenty of earth and water down there.
They did him so dirty, man.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
And it's funny how that scene plays out, because when they walking, they never showed the hole that they was walking towards, the pit. And then next thing you know, you see them in the front of the pit, like, wait a minute, where did this pit come from? That always like, yo, the way they filmed it was pretty ironic.
Yeah, Peter Manson is such a fantastic actor. I think he also was one of the best parts in a TV series that used a lot of aesthetics from 300 in Spartacus. I have a love-hate relationship with Spartacus this series, first of all, because I'm a Roman by heart, so I think it's anti-Roman propaganda, that series. But of course, like there's so much greatness in the series too.
But yeah, that Spartacus show, like I started out watching it, but I never really followed through on later seasons.
Yeah, I watched it to the end because at one point I knew they had to kill him.
But yeah, like you said, he was an amazing actor, and it's a shame that he got off so early.
Yeah, he's really like he got the shaft, like.
But he's a messenger, and you know what they say, kill the messenger.
Yeah,
and he was the first one to go.
And he didn't really get any brownie points with all the scars of the kings, like.
Oh yeah, he showed all that stuff, and they're like, "You think you can show that and come here and talk to me like this?" Fall in this pit. I love that scene. That's probably one of the most iconic scenes because it led to the quote, "This is Sparta."
I mean, this movie back in the days, you know. I mean, we only have old people in the chat, so in the early days of meme, This is Sparta was one of the godfathers of early meme culture.
Oh yeah. And of course everybody meet the Spartans carried that whole thing.
With Britney Spears.
I'll tell you, like we said before, some parody movies almost outside the original source.
Yeah.
Oh man. Another thing I love about the film is the soldiers. You have Delos, played by David Wyndham, who's the narrator, and who plays a big part later in the film.
Of course, Faramir, he was in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. And then you have, what's his name? I don't want to botch his name.
Captain, Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender's in, yes. He was Stellos. He ain't really have too much, but you know what we got of him was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was his. He was like in TV movies and TV series.
Yeah, it was early.
I think this was his first cinematic movie. I love this one interview that he had since he is Irish German, and somebody asked him, "It's like how is it to be like Irish German? Is it like this has to be done absolutely perfectly tomorrow?" But yeah, Michael Fassbender, fantastic actor.
But it's Vincent Regan as Captain Artemis.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that he's the captain and right hand man to the King Leonidas. But he also has his flaws. You know, he's untrustworthy of certain people. You know, he's very quick to handle situations. And of course, he has his son, you know, right there as his right hand man, you know, as his one of the warriors. And that his son was even like portrayed in the comics, and like you only know of him until he dies.
Yeah. There's one thing that I would change. I mean, he did his job perfectly. I absolutely love it. But there's one thing that I would trade from Meet the Spartans and 300. I would have put Kevin Sorbo in 300.
Well, you know, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, because actually I think that was it. That was so well cast in Meet the Spartans. Like, it's Kevin Sorbo, of course.
Kevin Sorbo. He should have been in 300 in the first place. And still being Meet the Spartans. Like,
yeah, since the bloodline of the Spartans, as they say, is basically it's the Herculean bloodline. So.
Yes, because that's what they're like the strength of Hercules. Yeah. All of them have. And the Spartans was just warriors through and through.
Warrior culture.
Yeah, that they trained since child, and we see at the beginning of the film where King Leonidas was as a child training with his father. Then they took him away and said, "Now you have to go and learn on your own." And we see that the whole thing with him and the big giant wolf.
Yeah,
and
there's not a penguin.
And you know, it's cold as hell. He only got the little shorts on. Yeah. But you know, he learns his trade. And he comes back with the wolf skin. That he graduated. Yeah. He is 100% full Spartan now. He's in our group.
Yeah. I know that it is also so fantastic, you know, when he then realizes and he tries, like, he touches it and he can't believe it himself, and he also put his hand there so nobody sees it.
Because, nobody sees it.
Yeah, that's like also the flaw when you say you're a god and you just suddenly start to bleed. It's like, wait a moment. You said you were a god.
You don't want nobody seeing that you're mortal, that you can bleed.
And especially when most of your army is basically by people that you conquered, and they're not the most loyal, and they're just waiting themselves for like the little bit of weakness so they can fight you.
Yeah, and I could not believe that Leonidas could not nail that dagger right between Zeus's head. The fact that it nicked him just so slightly and he started to bleed, I was like, God.
This is also what I love so much about this movie. Of course, there's some plot points where it's like, hey, you have to work in some historic frame, especially like how battle ends and when people die, if you're doing it right. But within that frame, all the liberties you can take for entertainment and for aesthetics, go for it. And 300 does this so well, especially, you know, how they teased it. You know, he's like, he put off the helmet, lowered the spear, put on the shield. Like, he lowered the helmet because he needed to see like the spear because it was heavy, and he had to throw it long. So this was such a fantastic build up.
And Zuri's just watching that spear come towards his face, and he like, no chill at all. He like, the hot gates is my favorite scene. I love that scene. I love the whole setup of it. You know, when he was telling it to the council, and the council like kind of rejected him, but he was not the council. It was the oracle. The
oracle, like,
yeah. But I just love the planning of that scene and how they stood tall within the confine of the Hot Gates mountain.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic scene and a fantastic battle plan.
Absolutely. You know, for you know, we have already a little bit criticized like that it was mostly digital, like everything done before the blue screen. But for that, of course, personally, I would love to have more practical effects in it. And some effects are a little bit dated, but they nailed it so well with the grainy filter to obscure a lot of the dated effects. And for being fully digital, they really managed to create a nightmare version like of Greece, you know, where like where the Persians already massacred like the whole village and nailed like everybody to the tree. This is so fantastically done, and it really feels like, you know, you're entering like hell.
Yeah.
And
just the way the aesthetic, you know, of how the background's always like a hellish looking daytime.
Yeah.
Like in daytime never looks normal. It just looks red and hellish.
Yes. And this totally is also like stylistic choice to portray the, you know, wartime. And I think it's so well done. And those later I absolutely laugh, you know, when the Persian fleet comes, you know, with 10,000 soldiers, and then the storm comes and some of them already die, so, you know, welcome to motherfucking Greece, you bastards.
It's like the storm came right on time to wash them out. But that was just like 1/3 of the army. It wasn't even the whole army.
Yes. Oh, that's also, you know, this movie has so many iconic scenes, and what I also love about it, today they could have never done this movie, and because way too many fucking pussies would be like, oh, we can't portray men manly, blah 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 blah.
No, they even made a little joke about that when he was talking to the messenger. And that's what they look at these days.
Exactly. You know, it was such a great time, you know, with 2006, 2007. But it's some in the next 10 years afterwards, the Hollywood totally lost it. But 300 for that alone, for being really true to the core adaptation of a graphic novel. For that, 300 would always be on the Olymp of comic book movies.
Yeah. Most definitely. And like he said, the Wall of Persia stood out definitely when you get to that scene. It's like, wow. And I love the whole building the wall with bodies.
Yeah. Well, you thanks to your scouts, we got the mortar for the wall.
And then the setup on when they the rest of the Persian army was coming, and they see the wall of bodies, and then the Spartans right behind it say, "Fuck!" And they push all the bodies on them.
I really love the portrayal of the immortals. Of course, the immortals existed in reality, but in reality they were people and not monsters and creatures. But through the eyes of the Greeks, they might have been as well monsters.
That was one of the only, outside of the giant tusk elephants, that was the only monster that we saw in the film. Because when you think of Greek mythology, you think of a variety of monsters, and especially the Gorgons and stuff like that.
Maybe also saw this weird creature, of course, that executed the generals of Xerxes. And of course, this Baphomet-like creature, in the orgy tent.
And then we also had the deformed Spartan.
Yeah.
Who tried to join he followed them through their travel and then tried to join them, but his deformity is limited and it wouldn't help him in the battle as a unit.
Yeah. This was, of course, also an artistic choice to show the traitor as a cripple. In history, that person existed. The person betrayed Sparta and showed the Persians the back door to the hot gates. That sounded dirty. But the historic person did it for money. They did not try to join Leonidas.
Yeah. Well,
but I think of course, in a comic way, you how to show a traitor best, to giving such treats, which some people would also see, this is politically incorrect, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, we don't need that nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, you really believe that King Leonidas and his army of 300 can defeat the Persians.
Hey, Aliyah. Yeah, this is this is the only thing that sucks when you're a history fan and studied history. I never studied history, but of course I was a history freak way before. You get all the spoilers for the movies, they're not gonna make it, but I hope they do.
But you start to believe, they can do it, and that last battle against Xerxes and the army is you see King Leonidas standing outside and everybody else held it up with their shields up.
Of
and
course,
it's what plan they got?
Yeah. Of course, in history there were 300 Spartan warriors, but of course you had also more other armies than were shown here.
Yeah.
So of course it is but also this is also a great artistic choice because it's it just pops out more. So I was very happy that they only used the other Greek troops very sparingly, because otherwise it wouldn't have taken away from the core message of the movie.
And I like how the first battle at Hell Gate, they were successful. They had very few fatalities, and they pretty much owned that battle. But
this day, no Spartan dies.
The second one, they started having fatalities. You start to see Spartans get killed.
Yeah, especially with the Immortals. That was a really fantastic battle.
And Captain Artemis loses his son, Astinos.
Then goes berserk.
It's man, sometimes you got to always be aware of your surroundings, because the battle is never over till it's over.
And Al, this is exactly, when I watched it the first time, I also didn't know about the graphic novel. And this what makes a fantastic adaptation. Being true to the source while being enjoyable without knowing the source. And Snyder is a fantastic director when it comes to adapting something. Not so much when he has to write something himself, but also Ladians, like the Legend of the Guardians, the Halls of Garou, which is also a fantastic film by Snyder. Also, like, of course, very true to the source. So when he adapts something, he's very good. Like the best scenes of Batman v Superman are the ones that he adapted directly from the comics. Of course, they make very little sense mixed together in that movie, but the scenes just by themselves look fantastic.
I enjoyed Snyder's Watchmen for what it was.
I love Watchmen. Like that is Watchmen is with Diabolic, my favorite comic book movie.
And when you read the book by Moore, sometimes I liked it that they cut out certain stuff in the book, because the book kind of drags in the middle of it.
I think the movie is way better than the book Watchmen.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah. Especially the director's cut. The ultimate cut is way too long and boring, and the cinema cut is too short. Like the director's cut of Watchmen, along with Diabolic, is my favorite comic book movie.
Yeah, though, like his Watchmen was much better than the book for me. But yeah, the fact that I never read 300, and I just watched it based off the trailers. The trailers did a great job in getting me sold on watching this film. Because I love a good like historic battle. Spartans and armies and stuff like that. I was intrigued in watching it, and I was blown away with how this movie presented itself.
Yeah, and this movie also, Gladiator brought back the Sword and Sandal movie, but 300 broke the barrier of gore in a mainstream movie.
Highly stylized gore.
Yeah, highly stylized gore, of course. But after that, we got a lot of more gore in movies again, which also I think it's also partly, at least, thanks to 300. Yeah. Like in Spartacus in the series, we would have not gotten like fully like cutting off penis scenes without what 300 did before.
Yeah, they took it to the extreme in that.
Yeah, they did Spartacus.
Probably one of the reasons why I never stuck with it. I don't know if I can tolerate this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this film, and there's so many great scenes. There's so many great quotes. The second battle was one of my favorites, and like I said, the battle with the immortal monsters.
Yeah,
that scene had some of the best fight choreography throughout that entire battle.
Absolutely, yeah.
And can King Leonidas battle that monster? And I'm like, man, this monster's really getting some good shots in. Like he can take out the whole squad if he wants to.
And especially for really being shot on blue screen, when you take a look and see the scenes, for that to make it really, it looks so fantastic on film, and it's a miracle, because usually something like this would look cheap and a little bit unrealistic, but this felt really coherent within the world they have created. Aggressive relaxing. Yeah, what I also love here about is, of course, how they really managed to translate from the comic to the screen.
Yeah.
So this seems this is here with the Oracle and the Wolf. Like this is a masterful adaptation of a comic, and also along with Watchmen, one of the gold standards.
Yes, like too many times people try and add too much stuff to a story that's already in place.
Or or how the MCU does it, where it basically is we're gonna make light versions of some of the most iconic. I mean, at least when they still did the iconic stories and not the new comics that nobody reads.
Like, they butchered Gore the God Butcher, literally. Like, that's pun intended. They butchered Gore the God Butcher.
I haven't seen it, but I've read some synopsis.
You ain't got to worry about it. You already didn't like Ragnarok, so Love and Thunder is going to be trash on Ragnarok.
Yeah, Ragnarok, after 20 minutes, I shut that shit off. I know Hailey is in the chat, and Hailey is so distorted that he likes Ragnarok. but also, like, he's not, like, I think, like, this sort of a core fan in that sense, because you can't watch a movie when you like Thor because it's a parody of Thor.
And Love and Thunder is even worse.
But even the good MCU movie, I was actually very surprised. I mean, I hated Endgame. That movie is a clusterfuck. But the Infinity War movie before, that one was really good. But the weird thing about it, despite the movie being good, it didn't even scratch the outer surface of what the Infinity Gauntlet story was in the comics, because it was the most epic thing that Marvel ever did. Like the battle in space, like all the characters, and Death being there. So they really toned it a lot down. So I really think it's like a light version. But with 300, it totally gets the essence right of the source material. And it wears, with the MCU movies, it almost feels like that they're ashamed of the source material. That's why they're ridiculing it, why they're making it fun of it, why they're using basically the self-parodying the source material, because they don't honor and they don't love the source material. But Snyder, many people, you can criticize Snyder for a lot of things, but this man loves comics, and you can see the love of the comics in his movies.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And back to when you was talking about the whole MCU thing, when you have a wealth of stories right there in front of you,
yeah,
and you say, I'm only going to use 25% of that, and then the rest of the 75% is what you want to add to it, that's already a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And, the MCU was highly successful, but I truly believe if they would have dove more into the epicness of the scope of the big stories they adapted, they would have been way more successful even.
Yeah, I agree. And what 300 does so well is almost similar to some of the DC animated movies that actually translated the comics to the animation and does it seamlessly. Like the Dark Knight Returns, the 2-part Dark Knight Returns is accurate from page to animation, 100%.
That one is so good.
And this is what Zack Snyder did with 300.
Yeah.
And he did it with Watchmen. And when you can do that and make a great movie, and I'm about to say, make it where you don't overdo it and say, I need to add some stuff to it. Like, no.
Exactly.
You look at the runtime of this, it's only an hour and 57 minutes.
You know what I really don't get is when people say, oh, we have to change this thing so that it's fresh, so that people that read the comics are surprised. Nobody needs to be surprised. Otherwise, we wouldn't watch otherwise there wouldn't be a genre of Second World War movies. Everybody knows how it ends, basically going to the movie with a spoiler. Or when I watch Rome, my favorite series, like, I'm not surprised that Caesar gets assassinated in the Senate. It's like, but it doesn't stop anybody from watching it. Hey, poor Mike. Because, and this is the thing, when a story is good, it's good despite you knowing the outcome. Like, to have a surprise in there is mostly a trick by less talented people that have no faith in the endings. For example, like Jar Jar Abrams. I'm only naming Jar Jar Abrams because he's not worthy of a JJ. He's just using mystery boxes because he's not a good storyteller. and he's just like consistently, oh, like this is a mystery box to the next mystery box. You're always like wondering, but he's never delivering.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of his Star Treks, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like when he did the second one with Khan and it starred Benedict Cumberbatch,
Yeah.
I was like, I like Cumberbatch enough, but I'm old school Khan. I'm old school Khan.
And
I wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah, one of the best Star Trek movies with Khan, Wrath of Khan. So
yes,
fantastic.
classic. And it's funny because the actors, they got the same actor from the original TV series, and he aged a lot.
Yeah.
But he still nailed the role. And it's like he was even better in the movie than he was in the original TV series.
Like I'm not a big Star Trek fan. Like I'm not watching like this. I mean, I watched the series when I was a kid, but the Wrath of Khan, like even by not being a Star Trek fan, this movie is just magnificent. And this is a movie that I would watch over and over again.
Yeah.
And this is like the storytelling is tell your story, and even if people know how it is, like I can rewatch the Wrath of Khan 100 times and know how it ends, but it doesn't matter. It's a good movie.
It keeps you entertained. It keeps you hooked. The story is solid. The characters are great. You want to keep, even if you don't seen it a million times and you know the outcome of it. The story keeps you wanting to rewatch it over and over again, just like 300.
I mean, of course, you can use like a mystery box when it's bringing the story forward or bringing out an emotion. I mean, one of the most famous, literally mystery boxes in cinemas, of course. What's in the box? In 7, which was, of course, like fantastically used. But if you just use it so you don't have to tell a story, no. And see, like for 300, everybody who had like it's everybody in Europe. We all have Greek history as in our in our first school years. So we know like how the whole history, writing for Europe, etc. began. So everybody who has visited a European school knows how the story ends. Still, that hindered nobody from watching the movie.
And to keep it on 300, I love when Leonidas tells Delos after the battle where he got his eye hurt and stuff. He sends him back, to send a message to the people and to his wife, and it was right then and there. That was his final. That was his finality. And it's such a powerful moving scene because of how he knows that they're not coming back from this. Like you're gonna die a Spartan warrior. Yeah. But I need to get this message back to my people.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting topic in general. That how to portray people that have accepted like their fate, that there's no leaving this place alive. Because I always say, like, in the end people show their true color. So I really like it in the end, when Michael Fassbender's character, said like it's like when isn't like it's an honor to die with you. So I really love how Leonidas said to him, it was an honor to live by your side. So very well done, of course. The historian in me says, people never really change, so people worried about the same stuff we do nowadays. Everybody's just out there hunting for their own personal luck. And of course, like, all the epic tales we're getting are very much a little bit like the stylized, etc. So,
but the core emotion is there.
Exactly, the core emotion. But so who knows how people really died back in the day, if they were like such heroic and so accepting of it. But it's,
and that shot of Leonidas, laid with the arrows.
Yeah.
So powerful. So
Very
I mean,
powerful.
you see all the arrows just coming towards him, and he's accepting his fate, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
It's
Because
beautiful.
it's really just poetic of how these
Yeah.
men fought their heart, their soul, and their defense, what they believe for. I
And
would
this-
die
yeah.
for this.
And this goes, this also goes back to the early Greek theater, like this portrayal of, you either had a comedy or you had a drama, and this is a perfect Greek dramatic portrayal of like pathos, of like showing, of delivering emotions through
Hey,
actions. Hey, that is fantastic. So this is also which the storytelling of it actually mirrors very well with the Greek storytelling. So it's just, I love it. I love it.
Yes. It's just so damn good. And then the final speech at the end that Delos gives to the new, bigger Spartan army. And I was, after I watched the movie, I'm like, do I want to watch the sequel? Because I know he's in the sequel, and the sequel takes place before and after.
Yeah, and this also, of course, the sequel is like the naval battle with the Athenian fleet. Since nobody back in the day could really challenge Athens at sea.
Yeah, we talked about the exaggeration.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best comic book adaptations, and just watching it again made me want to like go back to that video that we did, our top 10 comic book movies, and maybe revise it and add this to it because thanks, man.
That's always the thing with top 10 lists is that on one day they can be completely different another day.
And the only reason I didn't include it because I didn't read the book at the time. I still haven't read 300. I just know based off the movies. And like I said, Frank Miller, his art style is intolerable during later in his career. Like, I can't tolerate some of his art choices.
I'm not a fan of Frank Miller's, even of his early art. Like, I'm not a big fan. Personally, I think it's more acceptable when he does an independent stuff, like this or Sin City, because I don't have a reference, but it's just when I look at this Wonder Woman who barely looks female, it's like
I didn't even like his Superman in The Dark Knight Returns. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
But hey, he had a lot of success with it, so good for him.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I actually really liked, of course, like in terms of writing, he also had like his own personal house style, with this just very short outburst of words. But hey, that's what the stories just needed, because he was able to get a lot of emotions with very few words, which is an excellent talent when you're a comic book writer.
I enjoy his Daredevil run, but man, sometimes it's rough to go back and read it because how the dialogue and the slang is so different because it was that time period, but it just doesn't read well today because I'm like, God, I'm trying to read it, but it's just throwing me off with how the dialogue is written.
Yeah, but I guess it's also like, of course, like I said, with historic sources, that when we get like a book, it's never a historic source of that what it portrays in a book, but of like how the viewpoint of something is at the time when it was written. And the same thing is with one of my favorite Frank Miller books, where people always say, "What? This is your favorite?" It's always RoboCop versus Terminator. I love RoboCop versus Terminator, and it clearly shows that he knows more about RoboCop than Terminator. But this, I think, is so great, and I never quite got why the movies, even though they couldn't do the RoboCop versus Terminator stuff, then they never had the approach that basically that the that the resistance is sending somebody in the past to kill somebody, and the Terminator sent somebody back to protect somebody. So I really like how they totally changed like the original Terminator plot for that.
Yeah, it would have been nice if we would have got that in the film. Because I loved the video game playing growing up. I was like, man, that was awesome. Fun as fuck. Yeah. But
the Sega one, the Super Nintendo one is a little.
I sadly played the Super Nintendo one, but I love going to the arcades to play the game. So
yeah.
But yeah, I got something to show because I just want to say that 300 is a classic. Definitely check that out. But these will be coming to you sometime this month.
Oh, nice! The treasury.
I had asked you if you had any treasuries.
No, the treasury is actually very tough to find here.
The fact that Ybor City had a couple of them, I grabbed myself one. And
you got, I think that is the reprint. You got the reprint of the. Is it the first or second appearance of Red Sonja? I think the one.
Yeah. But yeah, I was like, man, these would be great for VB. And this is the one I picked up, of course, with Red Sonja.
Yeah. That one I'm also still hunting.
Yeah, if he had two of these, I would have grabbed another one. But I was like, I want that one.
Hey, K-Bob Junkie.
What's up, K-Pop? And then I picked this one up there.
Yeah, it's the first chainmail bikini.
Yeah, that's why I knew when I saw it. And Jeff was like, "There's an importance to this book." I'm like, "Chainmail bikini, baby."
Yep. Like a lot of sources get it completely wrong that Savage Sword issue number 1 is the first chainmail bikini. No, it's Savage Tales issue number 3 because there is by Esteban Maroto a pin-up in there that shows Red Sonja. Like her armor is so distracted, so there's basically only a chainmail bikini left.
And of course, I gotta show this off again because my boy Al, Dusty Brick Brown, he hooked me up with this. Probably one of the best looking Superman Christopher Reeve covers.
Is this a Perillo or?
Yeah, I think it is. But yeah, I know a lot of people don't like Superman. This is the man that I grew up as my Superman. So, shout out to Dusty Brick Brown for sending me that. Awesome.
Actually, I don't think that a lot of people don't like Superman. I think that a lot of people don't get Superman.
Because what's the problem with Superman? I've said this before. Too many writers don't know what to do with the character.
Exactly.
Only a few amount of writers know how to write the character and tell the stories where, he's a powerful character, but there's other ways that you can tell stories to make him more connecting to the audience. But other writers let's add this superpower to him and let's add that to him.
Yeah.
They just do all this shit with him and they that's why the characters don't get no love.
I think what a lot of people forget or what they don't think to focus on. For me, Superman stories are always less about the action, but more about for him to show his love for his adoptive planet, because Superman truly loves humans with all their flaws and truly loves the planet.
Yeah, but certain writers don't want to get it right with how they tell the stories, and they just come up with all types of stuff. But yeah, those are what I got. I hopefully I also got the Steve's A-OK for you.
Oh yeah.
It's boxed up, so it's boxed up. So I'm gonna try and I gotta go to the post office tomorrow because I gotta send Matt his book, and then I'm get a couple of boxes and try and ship that out to you within the next week or two.
Yeah, no hurry.
But yeah, it was fun last Saturday, hanging out with the fellas and stuff.
It looked very fantastic. So it's always, like I say, it's always a little bit envious.
Yeah, and I even because I did my video on the Tampa Bay Toy Show, and I was pestering Byron about, Byron, man, we haven't did no video in weeks, man. When you gonna do something? When you gonna do something? And
Maybe
now he
just
found.
let's do the Frazetta. Let's drop the bomb.
Yeah, he dropped that, the MegaCon, and 2 other videos. So, you know, he got back into the groove of things. But yeah, it's awesome, you know, when we can get together and have fun. Actually, I document everything because this is our adventures.
Yeah. Well, me hunting books is more like, are there any European comic book shops with an online shop that haven't found yet?
Did you watch Gary B with Steve Whiting?
Oh yes, I was.
Yeah, he's determined to get you over there.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that was awesome, man. He was showing all the AOK books that we gifted him. You know, Steve is great, man.
Steve is the man.
So there will be a Comic Call Crew episode tomorrow.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I watched the one last week. It was excellent once.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we always have a blast doing all that stuff, man. E-Man, the brother, the cousin of He-Man.
Yeah. Also very important what I totally forget to talk about, since we already top 300, it's quite topical. You know how the Persians would have won?
Oh.
They didn't need a god king. They would have just needed an Iron Sheik to make the Greeks humble.
Oh man, rest in peace, the Iron Sheik.
Rest in peace, the Iron Sheik. Yeah, he would have put the jabroni Leonidas in the camel clutch,
break his back, and make
him humble.
I hope his last words before he passed was like, "Fuck the jabroni Hulk Hogan."
Fuck. Well, if it wasn't his last tweet, like when the team tweeted it every day.
God, Iron Sheik was so damn entertaining. It's like this man got social media and he just went off. Iron Sheik is a legend. Yeah, man.
And it's really sad because actually I think 2 weeks ago I finally watched a documentary.
It's funny watching his stuff pre WWF in like the 80s, and like this man can wrestle.
I mean, he's an Olympic wrestler. He was with the Iranian team at Olympia.
Most people just think of his 80s run where, you know, he was older. Yeah. But if you watch his 60s or 70s stuff, I'm like, this man legit was a badass. In the ring.
And you know what's so crazy? I also I rewatched his, of course, like his iconic 84 match against Hogan. Hogan actually totally acted like he was the heel. He Pearl Harbored him at the beginning. And he spit on the sheet, so actually like Hogan was more like a heel in the match. Yep. I mean, but also later the Greeks of course kicked the Persians' ass, and this is why we have the Europe that is nowadays. And the other thing which a lot of people forget, I already talked with Sean about in the beginning, like the Battle of the Thermopyles was not the only battle. At the same time, the Phoenicians attacked Syracuse in Sicily at the Battle of Himera, and Gelon of Gela kicked their asses at Himera. So ultimately, this saved Europe from being invaded by the Persians and the Phoenicians.
We all be Persians.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, great discussion. You know, 300. I'll probably still watch the sequel this weekend.
The sequel,
just to continue the aesthetic of it.
The sequel
I know it's
not
as good.
Bad. What I really love about the sequel is some of the underwater scenes where you see some really mythological creatures. So aesthetically, it's very pleasing. It just flawed a little bit in storytelling. It doesn't have this flow that 300.
And it's funny, people kind of criticize the first 300 for story, and I'm like, what y'all looking at, man? The first the story is fantastic. Yeah.
And like I said, also the movie that everybody hates that I love Meet the Spartans. when they released Rocky.
Y'all love some parody movies, man.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we early on we made up our mind what we're gonna talk next week.
Pain and Gain, baby. We're going from Snyder straight to Michael Bay.
I mean, who would have thought that Pain and Gain would be the next one to talk?
Yeah, but the movie's so underrated, and like I said, it's probably one of the most accurate. Since it was like historic events, just a contemporary one. It's the true events it's based on. They're way too true. Every time you think, yeah.
I laugh my ass off though when The Rock gets his toe shot off. I was like, what? And then
it's like this is really one of the rare occasions where The Rock chose to play like not the most laughable character.
He's not even the smartest neither.
He's not the smartest, yeah. He's.
And I love the meme. You know, I think Boss Club does it best. You know, when they have the Rock color promo, and then next you know he's snorting coke from the movie.
Yeah, it's so great. You know, it's like the movie's so awesome, but it's actually also so sad because all this shit happened.
Yeah, all the real shit that happened.
Yeah, and it really happened. It's almost like the movie tamed it down a little bit.
They really did.
Even like the police didn't
it's
release
almost,
that guy
that
because it said it sounded like the plot of a movie.
That movie is like glorifying what they did as opposed to like criminalizing them for what they did. Like we supposed to not like these dudes, but these dudes are fucking entertaining. So that's why the movie felt like
Yeah, and Mark Wahlberg also so good in it.
Anthony Mackie and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, man. I'm glad you brought that up. So I was like, yeah, let's talk that next week.
Which is also great because I also just rewatched it this week.
Shit. And then after that is when we're off, right?
Yes, and we're off, and I'm at a AI conference.
Oh boy. So yeah, you know, I want to thank everybody who showed up. Lady Fantastic came in with some great comments. K-pop. Junkie, Katie, thanks for showing up. Of course, he was here since the beginning. Two Gun Pedro. Who else we had? Poor Mike, thanks for showing up. Thanks for complimenting on the beats.
Yeah, Hialeah just just coming from horny jail and going back into horny jail. Of course, the man himself, Al Dusty Brick Brown.
Aggressively relaxing. Of course, you mentioned Hialeah.
Yeah.
You know, definitely sexy.
Back to horny jail.
And of course, Steve and Spot. Yeah, we had a great turnout today, man. Thanks for everybody for showing up. We'll
and
definitely
Kenneth
be back next week.
Just in time to be mentioned.
Oh, gotta bring him up, man.
Yeah.
Always there, man. Always a pleasure to see you. You know whose presence though I miss? I really miss Magic Lasso's presence.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
I know he gotta work, but man, I miss his
presence.
We
got like a lack of Adrian Bobo Tatas.
Yeah, he always, every time he came in, he had to say Adrian Bobo.
Yeah, reminds me also to have some books here for him. Should also pack up. Is he okay?
So thanks for everybody for showing up. We'll be back next week with Pain and Gain. VV, always a pleasure having you. You're like the new co-host on my channel. So whenever you need to do a video, just send it to me. I'll put it on my channel. But it's great having you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, like
hey,
like,
we love you, Lady Fantastic.
Like just don't watch History Channel after midnight.
So this is your boy Sean. We're signing out. Have a great weekend, y'all.